Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Amanda, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Shannon. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So today we're going to start with a game. I really like this one. I think it's an opportunity that we always don't have in the marketing world to market something really unique and funny, so to speak. So this game is called Market Me This. So I'm going to give
Oh,
you a very absurd product, and you
okay.
are going to have to develop a plan for me. It can be any. I know obviously developing a market plan is way more involved than just like a quick conversation here, but
Mhm.
any part that you want to delve into that you think would be like the most enjoyable part for you to plan out is your choice. You don't have to go into like every
Okay.
possible avenue that you'd go into normally. But yeah, I just think this will be fun. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready. Let's
Alrighty.
go.
Mood-based coffee stirs.
Mood-based coffee store stirs. Okay. Um, yeah. So I think from a creative perspective, any any time of day, kind of a campaign. So because your mood shifts throughout the day. So I'm thinking about something that, like there I would make it funny because it's kind of a funny product. And yeah, I would have like a morning mood and an afternoon mood and an evening mood. And I think you could do some funny videos around that too.
I think there
That's
would be a great advertising avenue for that.
Yeah, exactly. Advertising and also just I would have fun with it. I would make it funny. Um and I think, you could yeah, for each mood obviously you would have to pick a color, like the product would also be important here. Um and I would do video, like a lot of video for
Mhm.
something like that. Just make people laugh and smile, and I would keep it light.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
wonderful. I definitely think utilizing video is the way to go for this one, especially if it's color based. I think that, that's what I assume, I guess, when I think of mood based. This is
me
something
too.
absurd that I came up with, but that's what I thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
like
think that the first thought that I had was like my mom knowing like if I was thinking, oh, she's angry in the morning. We started the morning angry. So
yeah.
maybe um so it's like a clue into like how so and so is feeling, so you know whether to approach them or not in the morning when they're drinking their coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like angry in the morning, stressed out or worried in the afternoon.
Maybe I should let them
And
drink their coffee.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then maybe add a little Baileys in the evening or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'll definitely like heighten the mood. You're gonna be using your your pink coffee stirrer for
Yeah.
the pristine
Yeah.
times.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you for participating in my little game segment. I think you did great. I think that was very fun. I love to test people on their marketing knowledge for the silliest of things. We don't always
Yeah.
get to have the fun kind of marketing, so to speak. So, and it's fun for all of us, but in the
Yeah.
very specific things that I'm throwing at you. But again, Amanda,
Exactly.
thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to start out by kind of talking about you, like your journey to where you are now, what you're doing currently, and kind of what you're looking for the future, and like maybe introducing yourself a little differently than I would.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a marketer my entire career and was the head of marketing at a few different tech companies. The one that most people have heard of is MindBody.
Mhm.
And I was there for over 6 years. I led their growth from around 30 million to 250 million and grew the team from about 15 people to 80. And they IPO'd while I was there. So that was a really exciting part of my journey. After that, I helped another tech company grow 75% year over year. And then I started Rocket Fuel Labs actually with Michael Loeb, who runs Loeb.nyc out of New York. And he has incubated several unicorns. He's just a phenomenal entrepreneur, incredible mentor. And, we created Rocket Fuel Labs really with a vision of helping companies. Most of our clients are early stage because I started with the companies that are in his portfolio, but really any stage, providing that strategic support. There are so many agencies that are very tactically focused, like you can find a social media agency or an SEO agency or digital, or creative or brand, but there aren't that many that really understand the business and the unit economics of marketing and performance marketing and helping clients kind of put their plans together. Sometimes I'll ask a client, what's your goal? And they don't know. They need help figuring that out. So we're really like, I refer to us as kind of a CMO as a service because we provide that fractional CMO support. We do have an incredible team that can also execute on everything we recommend. So
That's incredible. I think that
yeah,
the growth that you've been able to have for these multiple businesses is absolutely so admirable. I'm so
thank
curious
you.
as to like the key lessons that you've learned from specifically MindBody Growth's experience, and like maybe how you've applied it to your leadership now, because it's just something that's so cool to see, like a growth at that scale.
Oh, I learned so many things at MindBody, but a few things that stand out are customer insight is the secret sauce to any campaign, especially when it comes to creative. It's real easy for companies and founders to think that they know what their customers want to hear and be very convicted about it and how,
Mhm.
be very sure of themselves. But when you actually start talking to the customers, if you know the right questions to ask and see yourself through their eyes and realize because you're, typically like you're one of many products or services that they use. You're not the only one. I mean, there are some companies that have a bigger role than others in their lives, but it's important to understand the role that your product or service plays in their journey and in their life and to see yourself through their eyes, because what you want to do with marketing is hold up a mirror, and you want them to feel like you read their diary or like you get them. They're seeing themselves in your marketing. The other lesson I've learned, but very similar and connected to customer insight, is that at the end of the day, you're talking to a person. And this is really important for B2B companies because it's easy when you're B2B to think in terms of accounts and
Mhm.
the businesses that you're going after. Like I want to get Hershey's or I want to get, HubSpot as a client, and just hyper focus on the company and not realize that at the end of the day, there is somebody working at that company and you got to grab them, get their attention, look them in the eye, and get them to talk to you. And that requires really a lot of understanding of human psychology, communication. How do we reach that person? So those are some of the things. I can talk about this all day, but yeah, those are two of the really important. One more thing I'll say, the third is there isn't a silver bullet solution
Mhm.
for marketing. Unless you have a website that is just atrocious, then yes, if you redesign it, you're probably going to see a huge lift in results. But usually there are a dozen little things that you can do that are going to, like, in aggregate, move the needle for your business. Just as, there's such a thing as death by a thousand cuts,
Mhm.
there is IPO is a thousand little wins. And so it's really important to get very granular in your, the devil's in the details, so to speak, but to get granular in your projections, how you project what marketing is going to do, and digging into performance at a very high level of detail.
Yeah, no, I think that, well, one, thank you for providing that insight because I think those were perfectly, like, three perfect, succinct points. I want to comment on a couple of them. So I 100% agree with like the people-centered approach, like understanding that even if you're a B2B company, you're still interacting with human beings, like regardless of whether that is like a conglomerate of human beings, it's still human beings, and you need to still, you know, have like form a relationship, talk to people in a certain way. And I think that a lot of people miss the mark with not understanding that and more looking for coming to them in a way that seems like salesy, so to speak. And that is at a detriment to them because people want to feel cared about regardless of whether they know you want something from them or not from the get-go. They want to, you can develop like a good relationship with someone, and then from doing that, that can create a better or like more of a business relationship with them. But you can't just
Absolutely.
not factor in that part and come with them at like a very cold approach, because that's not going to work on 9 out of 10 people, maybe even 9.9 out of 10 people.
That's right. And the impression you make, that relationship you build in the sales and marketing process, is giving them an idea of what it's going to be like having you in their daily lives.
Yep.
Because if you're selling software, especially, or technology, you probably are going to be in their life every day. And so even if you may be thinking like the price isn't that expensive, but it's not about the expense, it's about the interaction that they're having with your brand, and they need to feel confident that it's going to be a positive one. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And on top of that, what you said about being customer centered, I think is almost a similar vice of the idea that um, I think that many founders or CEOs or whatever it may be that are really passionate about their company and what it does, especially if they've created it, is so difficult sometimes to get out of your own head of like, this is perfect and this is everything that I want it to be, and not understand that customers don't always think that. Like, they have feedback, they have things that you can improve on, and it is so important and vital to listen to them in order to grow and make things better and keep them happy. And a lot of people kind of are weird about listening to that kind of feedback because they are maybe in denial that there could be things that are better, or maybe it's hard for them to receive criticism. But I think that being customer centered and wanting to listen to that and grow and deliver more and better for their customers and keep them happy and maintain those relationships is way more important than, you know, guarding yourself and just deciding that, you know, you've created something great and that's all it has to be.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I think that, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's amazing that you're able to recognize these things, because I think as a marketer, if you're not able to understand like the human-centered approach, then you're kind of not ever going to be as successful as you could be, because that's what marketing is all about. It is psychology, is what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And creative is becoming more important again. Not that, in my opinion, it's always important, but I think that in the wild west of data, and the ability for a while there, marketers were it was really easy to get in front of people who were having who are exactly the person you're going after, and maybe while they're having a moment where they would need your service. So with retargeting and cookies and the lack of permission, it was easier. And now these huge companies, Meta, Google, Google is sunsetting their cookies. It's going to get a lot tougher. The analogy that I use is like, if you're selling bottled water to someone who's running a marathon in the desert, all you have to do is get in front of that person and hold a sign that like with a magic marker, I have bottled water. Like they'll buy it from you, you know? So it made it easier. And I do think that some companies got a little bit lazy with their creative because they didn't have to like, it didn't have to be that good because they were getting right in front of the person that needs what they're selling. But now that's not the case. So the pendulum is swinging back a little bit, understanding psychology, being a really good communicator, really understanding your target audience. Because now you're not in the desert with the guy running a marathon. You're, maybe at a festival and you have a crowd and some of them need water and some don't. And how do you get the attention of the people who do? And that requires better, more thoughtful, creative that is, again, holds up a mirror.
Yeah, and
So,
definitely being like more innovative as well with like your approaches to what you're doing. Like experimenting more. And I think that I that's
yes.
getting more popular with all the noise that, people are doing more experimental things. It's like my favorite thing to see in marketing. Like I'll geek out over just seeing like a really cool campaign that I'm like, wow, like I don't even know how someone thought about this, but it's so successful. Those are also what I think people are very, even though marketing is always a gamble with something that is supposedly foolproof and you have all the research to back it, it might not work out. But for experimental things where things aren't necessarily proven to work, I think people are very wary of that. But I like to see more of that in, because that makes you stand out from all the noise.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So, what inspired you to start Rocket Fuel Labs? I know that a lot of people come from agency backgrounds and marketing backgrounds and start their own agency, and I'm always curious as to why. Because like, what started what was the inspiration? What was like the I don't want to work for someone anymore. I want to do this myself.
Well, I did start my career on the agency side. And I really, honestly, what inspired me to do it was just an opportunity to build a company from the ground up myself, to be an entrepreneur myself. When I worked at MindBody, I was really inspired by MindBody customers. Just how courageous they were and innovative, and just the ability to like build something and run it. So I've always kind of wanted to do that, and this was an opportunity to build a business with one of the most successful entrepreneurs like in the country, really. So Michael was one of the, he incubated Priceline. So that was really, it just seemed like an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I had to do it. If I didn't do it, I would always wonder, what if I had done that, So that was really what drove me.
What do you think was the biggest learning moment that you had when creating this agency?
Oh boy. Well, I've learned a lot. I mean, because this is the first time I've run a business. So there's just so much to learn as it relates to putting a plan together that's not just a marketing plan where I have a marketing budget and marketing goals to hit, but really planning to hit revenue goals for the whole company. The other thing I learned how to do was sell. I was always like on the marketing side and thought of myself as not a salesperson. Like I cannot sell. And I have sold every deal, for Rocket Fuel. And I got really, really comfortable with it. And now I actually enjoy it. So those are the two things that kind of stand out to me the most, is like putting a plan together, managing a budget, getting to profitability, getting to positive EBITDA. Like, how do you do that? And I think it's made me even more empathetic and understanding with my clients, because most of my clients are founders and they're early stage. And so I can relate to them on a level of like, I'm just like you, like I'm a founder too. And I understand your challenges and your stresses, and I want to help. So, yeah.
I'm sure that's really helpful for them to know that you have that experience, because it probably offers that level of trust already in knowing that like you've shared their experience and their struggles and their strife, and so I'm sure that that's a really lovely conversation and like a touch point that you have of being able to just like understand where they're coming from for certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that for learning sales from a marketing position, it's so interesting because it's almost like, yes, they work in tandem, but it's so funny that it's still like a whole different world of like understanding. But I think that it's really important to be able to learn multiple roles, especially when you're a founder, because you kind of are able to, once you get to that point where you're hiring for those positions or whatever it may be, you understand what it's like to be in those spaces, and it's something that's easier for you to like understand your employees and where they're at as well. So like having would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know how to use QuickBooks. I know how to, I know I have a process for collections that I set up. I mean, there's accounting, like there's just so much I've learned. It's hard to even answer that question because I should write it all down because I've learned so much. So
what is something that you learned that, or maybe like the biggest thing that you learned when learning sales that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you started doing it?
Oh boy, that's a really good question. I think the biggest thing I've learned that I always make sure I do now is you have to kind of create a little bit of fear of missing out, and you want to be persistent in following up without seeming desperate, you know? And so kind of walking that line and figuring out how to say, hey, just, want to check in, or do you still want to move forward without sounding like, are you going to sign? Like, that was probably something that took me a minute to figure out. And then, making sure also that with all sales, it's expectation setting. So you also have to balance selling and getting them excited about what you can do for them. Which, we have, now that we're 5 years in, we've got case studies, like really, really strong case studies, and we've gotten really great results for dozens of companies. So that makes it a lot easier, because in the very beginning, I didn't really have that. But you want to balance that too with expectation setting and being completely upfront that, like, for example, if I'm working with a really, really early stage company that's never done any marketing before and has no brand awareness, and they don't even know if they have product market fit, to say, listen, they typically also have a really, really tight budget. And so making sure that they know, when can I expect to see results, and how long is it going to take for us to kind of test these different channels that we're testing for the first time. So I think I've, for the most part, figured out how to do that and make sure that I'm being very upfront with them and being a consultant, during that sales process. Like, at the end of the day, I really do want every founder to be successful, whether they hire us or not. And I have told companies, I don't think you should hire us right now. If I look at their business and their budget, and I'm like, I could take your money, but I don't think that this is what you should be doing. I think you should be focusing on the product and doing product-led growth, or whatever it is I think they should do. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really lovely to know that you care too, and like the ability to say no, I think, is really hard, especially for someone that's doing sales, or like doing a lot of wearing many different hats in the beginning of founding as well, because it's having the incoming money is very helpful, and it's also difficult to say no sometimes, because that's something that's happening, but it's helpful to know your boundaries in the way that you're not only making sure that you're helping your client in a way that's actually effective for them and they're ready and right for your business, but also that you're helping yourself in the way that like you're not sacrificing what you're worth to help out someone just because you know, it's hard to set those boundaries and that line for yourself. So it's great that you were able to learn that as well.
Yeah.
So something that I thought was really cool that I learned about you was you have an article called How to Grow in a Slowdown. And I thought that was really cool because I always think of COVID and how like a lot of businesses and agencies were struggling during that time. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, like some insights of maintaining momentum during like economic downturns, especially everyone's really worried right now about that happening.
And I think I wrote that a couple years ago. So
I'm so sorry if like it's something that you kind of forgotten about. I just saw it and I thought it was something that was really cool.
It's just too bad that it's still relevant.
I know. It's very sad actually.
Yeah. But yeah, so growing in a slowdown, I mean, I think you have to first of all prioritize because you know everyone at the time I wrote that article, especially in the tech industry, which is where most of our clients live, was trying to extend their runway because fundraising just became really, really difficult. And so when you're in that position, it's important that you're focusing your marketing dollars on what I would call like a spearfishing approach as opposed to casting a wide net. So, you know, if you're an enterprise, if you're going after B2B enterprise, you're doing that anyway, but like, just, focusing your dollars and your time on the right channels and the right people. And the other thing I always say is like, when you're in that position, focus on the bottom of the funnel. People tend to kind of flatten all marketing channels and think of them like as one thing, like Facebook, Meta, Google, and they think of them just different channels, but they're not just different channels. They're different parts of the buyer's journey and different parts of the funnel. So if you're advertising to someone on Facebook, they're not logging into Facebook to find an answer to their problem. Usually, sometimes they are, I guess, if they go to a Facebook group, but they're usually logging in to socialize.
Yeah.
And you're interrupting them and putting your brand in their face, which that's not a bad thing to do. Don't get me wrong. But like, that's a different part of the journey. That's awareness versus Google when somebody's actually searching for you or searching for a solution to a problem. They're experiencing a pain point in that moment. And so being aware of that and making sure your ads reflect that is really important. But if you have limited money to spend, I always recommend going to the bottom of the funnel. And not just Google. Obviously, that's one example. There may be other ways, depending on your business, for you to find those people. But it's important to figure out and think about marketing as a strategy. How do we find people that are way, way, way more likely to be experiencing this problem or this pain point that we solve than everybody else, and get in front of them with our brand. So that's one that I do remember. And then I think also in a downturn, look at you don't really have the ability to hire. And so outsourcing is helpful. But one of the things I, of course, recommended is get a fractional CMO, get somebody who knows what they're doing, because if you just hire freelancers and consultants as a founder, but you yourself are not a marketer, how are you going to hold them accountable? How are you going to make sure that they're doing a good job or doing the right things? It's really easy to kind of just show data to a client and say, oh, look at all the impressions and the clicks, we got you. But like, how do you know that that's really driving any business? So yeah, those are a couple of recommendations I believe I made in that article.
Yeah, no, I resonate with both of those. One, the social media specifically, or like the different touch points. I think that it's very important to like differentiate between what would work for each platform, or like where you're putting your advertisement or whatever it may be, because it's it's something that I think a lot of people think that they can take the same thing and put it everywhere, and that just will work, especially if they don't have like a lot of marketing experience. But I think that that's not super helpful all the time, because, like you said, Facebook, like maybe that's not, maybe something that will work on Google won't work on Facebook because of the reason that someone is using that platform. Whereas, and it doesn't make sense to maybe do my one of my founders has consistently found these ads where it's like really weird acoustic music behind like just a picture of someone advertising something. And he was saying, is this like a new trend? Like he keeps seeing them, and I thought they were very funny. And they were on Facebook, and I was like, I don't know if someone would click on this other than for the bizarre absurdity of it.
Yeah.
Because you're on Facebook, like you don't want to see ads in the first place. This is the most advertisement ad ever. Like it's so like in your face of like, this is clearly what it is. It doesn't trick you, so to speak, into like, interacting with it. And I think that's something that like a social platform kind of has to be, or something that's already on your front of mind. And so that's very difficult, and that's something that people really need to keep in mind, because it's not something that there's not like a one size fits all for every platform for an advertisement, unless your advertisement's just really good and you thought about all the platforms when creating it, I guess. But that's really important for targeting, because that's like your more of a spearheaded approach, so to speak, that you said. I think that is how you do that, in the way of like you're considering your audience when you're putting those out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and even for the outsourcing as well. I think that exactly what you mentioned about like maybe a fractional CMO as well, for, or outsourcing or whatever it may be. I think that there's people that you can utilize, or like partners even that you can utilize, that are doing that work for you, that you can directly interact with and have like, and be able to like manipulate, not in the bad manipulation way, but in like just being able to like understand what they're doing and not just provide numbers. And I think that that's something that's really helpful sometimes, instead of like a freelancing approach where maybe you don't have as much control. And so I completely agree with that, and the idea that like, you can always outsource freelancers, but sometimes that's like something that is more unexpected, depending on the process that you go through to vet people, and if you have the time for that, which many people that are stressed for money at the time do not have time for that.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
But there we are coming, we're already a little over time, so I'm going to end here.
Okay.
But I think that this was really wonderful. I really appreciate all the insight that you had. I love talking about this article because I really found it very interesting, so I appreciate you sharing your insights about it, even though it was 2 years ago.
No worries.
That still has something that's happening.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, Shannon. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and it was great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was lovely meeting you too. And thank you everyone for listening and participating. I really appreciate everyone that is watching this, and that you're able to get knowledge from it like I am. So thank you so much, and have a lovely day.